All right, welcome back to another edition of the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. This is our Week 13 recap / playoff picture rundown. I'm Brad.
This is Zach.
And I'm Hefe.
All right, so we definitely want to thank you for listening, watching, whatever the case may be. Please be sure to show us some love, like, share, and subscribe, and tell all your friends. Every little bit helps. We certainly appreciate the support. We are coming into the last quarter of the season. What another weird week of games. Certainly some things I didn't expect, but we're going to not run down each game. We're going to run down through the playoff picture, discuss what happened yesterday, how that makes some changes, the upcoming games we have left as we record this on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We still have 2 games this evening and a game tomorrow, but we'll talk about how those can affect the picture as well. You guys want to start with the AFC or NFC today? I forget where we're at.
Let's go with the AFC.
All right. So first and foremost, we will talk about the number 1 spot is held by the undefeated. If you paying attention? 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers at the number 1 spot. I don't see this changing. I mean, they may take the number 2 spot, but I don't see this changing. They've got Washington tonight. You guys see this being an upset tonight?
No.
I wouldn't put it past them just because Washington's good on defense. It's not something I expect, but if there's something you've learned this weekend, it's expect the unexpected.
Yeah, for sure. And the Chiefs almost got that last night in their game. So Steelers should move to 12-0, maintain this number 1 spot coming down the stretch. The Kansas City Chiefs are number 2. They're the only team so far to have clinched a playoff spot. They're sitting at 11-1, and they had a scare yesterday.
Yeah, they squeaked it out in Denver, 22-16. I thought the Broncos were going to get them.
I thought I was going to have to apologize to Garrett Bowles today. I did. I was going to. I swear I was going to. Interdivision games, man. All bets are out the window, and but in the end, Kansas City, they squeaked it out. They got it done. It's what matters, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Just like the Steelers, both teams are being talked about. The easy schedule, and it's been a pretty easy walk to the top of the AFC. But in the NFL, the players and the coaches will all tell you that nothing's given to you. You got to go get it. So for both of them, one team to be undefeated, another one to be this far in with 1 loss matters.
Yeah, for sure. Either way, both these teams are going to the playoffs. We can pretty much lock that in. At the number 3 spot is the Buffalo Bills, moving up a spot this week. Now they have they're one of the games remaining tonight, and they have a tough game in San Francisco that has playoff implications both for the AFC and the NFC. This should be a really good game.
Yeah, it should be a good game, and this is a really big one for the Bills. If they lose this game, they're going to be tied at 8-4 with Miami in the AFC East. They'll have the tiebreaker currently because they beat Miami earlier in the season, but these 2 teams play again Week 17, so they may be fighting it out neck and neck Week 17 right before the playoffs to see who wins this division.
Yeah, and that's what I think it's going to come down to because in the picks and preview, I picked the 49ers to win this game. I still believe the 49ers are going to win this game, so they're going to be 8-4. I think that Week 17 matchup is going to be to decide who gets first, who gets second in this division. Who knows what's going to happen when that comes up. But either way, this is going to be big, and hopefully the Bills can prove me wrong. I'm somebody that's been rooting for Josh Allen since he came in the league, so I hope they can pull it off and go to 9-3. But these NFC West teams, especially now that the Niners are getting healthy, I mean, this is somebody that in the playoffs you're not going to want to play the Niners. So watch out for this Bills game. It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, and I have to just reiterate everything that you guys said. I mean, this Bills Miami thing is huge because in the AFC, I mean, the Colts are in 7th place with an 8-4 record. These The Raiders are in A spot at 7-5, and the Ravens are at 6-5, and the Patriots are at 10th with 6-6. So there isn't a whole lot of room for error in this AFC right now. And somebody with a good record is not going to play in January. It's just the way it's going to happen. And on the flip side for the 49ers, they can smell it. After everything they've been through, sitting at 5-6, they are on the outside looking in, and the 7th spot is the 6-6 inconsistent Vikings. The 49ers can make the playoffs, and they know it. And if they've got something together and something to prove, they're going to start putting that down right now. It'll probably start today. If it hasn't started already, I don't want to be dramatic, but this is a big game. It is a really big game that the ripple effect will be felt all the way through the league on both sides. So we'll keep an eye on that. The number 4 spot ties in with the number 5 spot. The number 4 spot is the Tennessee Titans, who are now tied for their division lead with the Indianapolis Colts. They have the tiebreaker because of the shellacking they took by the Cleveland Browns, completely embarrassing me and making me look like I have no idea what I'm talking about from last week when I talked about the Titans have finally proven they belonged in the playoffs, and the Browns haven't done that for me. And I guess it wasn't a complete shellacking. The Titans kind of saved a little bit, huh?
Yeah, well, a lot of garbage time points. The Browns really took the foot off the pedal. Yeah, I mean, they really didn't do a whole lot on offense there in the second half. The Titans did make it closer. I guess that counts for something. But it wasn't any kind of dominant second half performance by the Titans either. The scoreboard would tell you it was, but it was just a solid game for the Browns. They came out, smacked them in the mouth. Derrick Henry had a fumble, which he doesn't do often. Titans, they had a couple mistakes in this game that really cost them, and the Browns were able to get short fields and were able to light up that secondary. And you said they made you look made you look dumb a little bit. They made me look pretty smart simultaneously.
I see what you did there.
I was like the only person that I knew picking the Browns to win this weekend. So that felt good. All the faith that I've had in the Browns over the last 3 years finally paid off a little bit. But I think that this game pretty much locks it in for the Browns making the playoffs. It's going to be pretty tough for them to miss the playoffs with the schedule that they have left. The Browns winning season already guaranteed, going to be in the playoffs. It's a good weekend to be a Cleveland fan.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree. I think the Browns are pretty much safe in there, but there is a chance they could screw this up. They have Baltimore next week. We don't know what Baltimore team's going to show up. We've been saying it all week. They can explode at any given time, or all season, I should say. They can explode at any given time. We haven't seen that. It's tough to believe that that's going to happen at this point in the season, but it's very real, really possible. They also have Pittsburgh in Week 17. The question is whether the Steelers are going to let up and rest their starters that game, or if they're actually going to play Cleveland and make them try to get in the playoffs. They also have the Giants, who have really came on the last couple of weeks, and they're now sitting in the playoffs. They play them Week 15. So that's 3 out of these next 4 games that they're going to have a tough crack at, that they're going to have to overcome and get. They should, at this point, they should win the Baltimore game. They should win the Giants game. Pittsburgh will probably not play as tough as normal, so they could come unscathed. But I agree. I think they're probably in the playoffs, but don't count them out yet.
Yeah, and from a mathematical standpoint, when you look at logic, let's say the Browns split those 2 games. They go 2-2. I mean, that's fair enough to say, right? I mean, they should pick up 3 of them. But let's say they split them and they go 2-2. At 2-2, they're still at 11-5, and 11-5 is probably going to be pretty safe with what's going on. I mean, I wouldn't be overly confident, but you expect these other teams to maybe go 3-1, 2-2, 3-1 throughout the rest of the games. So from a statistical standpoint, they should be pretty safe. But there's been a lot of weird stuff happen this year, and there are 2 interdivision games with the Ravens and the Steelers. I agree with you. They better keep their nose down and keep grinding, because this AFC race is spectacular. It really is. Which moves us to the number 6 spot, the Miami Dolphins at 8-4. They beat the Bengals yesterday. Tua is struggling a little bit. I mean, I think he's putting up decent numbers, but they're having a problem putting points on the board. I expect that to either change or make a switch, but I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I said to you yesterday, Zach, Brian Flores doesn't give a rat's ass what I think, but I don't know what he's doing. The struggle is unnecessary. I know. I think I know what he's doing. I think he's looking ahead to next year. Like, this isn't the year they really expected to win. They're banking on winning next year, and they're building the program for next year. And if they can win this year, then great. I guess that's what he's doing. But watching Tua struggle is scaring the hell out of me, to be quite honest.
Yeah, absolutely. You're sitting here currently a half game behind the Bills. If they lose tonight, they're going to be tied for the divisional lead, which nobody other than the Patriots has had for 20 years or something like that. So you have a really good chance at winning and they have a great defense. They have a chance at winning the Super Bowl. And when your offense is struggling, I understand you're trying to get to it. And maybe it is for next year. Maybe you're trying to get him hot because you know what he's capable of doing, but he's still a rookie. He's not used to these kind of playmakers on an NFL field. Whereas Fitzpatrick has been around for decades. He's been on every team. He knows the ins and outs. And they started off the season well. The offense was doing very well. So I don't get it. We say it every week. I don't understand why you put Fitzpatrick in to come and save your game or win a game for you and then just immediately take him out in favor of Tua. It's not the season. You have a team built around. Everybody's familiar with Fitzpatrick. He's capable of getting it done. He's proven that this season. Put him in, let him ride, let him finish out the season, get some trade value out of him, or let him go after the season, move on to Tua. But you're winning. You have a chance to win this division. You have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Get it done now.
That's how I feel too. That veteran leadership, I feel like when you get into the playoffs, like Tua might rattle off these last couple weeks for you in the regular season and get you into the playoffs in a good spot. But veteran leadership, and Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't have a whole lot of playoffs experience himself. So he doesn't have that kind of experience, but like what Zach was talking about, just the experience of being in a league and seeing so many different things, that in the playoffs, I think that'll be the thing that really hurts the Dolphins. With those elite defenses that make it to the playoffs, they'll be able to dissect what a rookie quarterback is able to do and what his capabilities are. So, it's a tricky game. I don't agree with it. I know you guys don't agree with it. Tua going forward is probably the guy, but I think right now the answer's got to be Fitzpatrick. Not a move that I don't think Brian Flores is going to make, but I think he should.
Yeah, well, we all agree there, and even to solidify that case, the Dolphins have a couple rough steps over the next couple weeks. I mean, they've got the Chiefs, they got the Patriots, which the Patriots 6 weeks ago was a different conversation than we're having right now about the Patriots. And the Raiders, which are up and down. We're probably talking about the Raiders in a minute. I don't understand what happened yesterday, but still, that it's going to be in Las Vegas. That's not going to be an easy game. And then they have the Bills. But on the flip side, the Bills still have to play the Steelers. They have to play the Broncos, who almost beat the Chiefs yesterday. They have the Patriots themselves, and then they have the Dolphins. So this is anyone's division. I can't stress this enough. This is a coin toss. It's probably going to come down to the last game, like we mentioned earlier. So I don't know. I just hope that Flores knows what he's doing. As an emerging Dolphins fan, I'd really like to see them do well. I think they're capable, especially under Fitzpatrick. I think they're capable. If you can get in it, there are certain teams that you expect to win. There are certain teams that get into the playoffs and won't do anything. There are some teams that are a wild card and could come in and hit a hot spot and make a run and suddenly win or lose a Super Bowl that you didn't expect to be there. And I think the Miami Dolphins are one of those teams. So anyway, we won't beat that horse to death. Let's move to the number 7 spot, the Indianapolis Colts, which we said are tied at the top of the AFC South with the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans own the tiebreaker. And this is what we talked about. We've been talking about the last month, that whoever is not winning this division is sitting on the bubble and in danger of not making the playoffs. Now, the Raiders and the Ravens struggles have certainly helped that argument. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I said that whoever didn't win this division wasn't going to make the playoffs. The Raiders appear to have cooled off. The Ravens are juggling dynamite. I mean, it's like everything that can go wrong in Baltimore is going wrong. They're doing everything they can to hold it together. The Colts, we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday, that the Colts are one step out of this as far as winning this division. Everything appears to be equal, but it's really not, is it?
No, but I mean, that they got very lucky on Sunday. They won 26-20 in Houston. Houston was right there getting ready to take the lead, win the game at the very end. And thankfully, they had a bad snap, and the Colts were able to make a play, swat it away, could recover it right at the end of the game to clinch the deal. But we also play Houston again in Week 15. They have the Jacksonville game Week 17, which it should not be a repeat of the first game of the season. That was a fluke in my opinion. But there's also a huge game next week against the Raiders. Thankfully, the Raiders haven't played well the last 3 weeks, so I feel a little bit more confident going into this one. But we also have Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh Week 16. So they have a pretty tough schedule. I don't know. We need a little bit of help from Tennessee. We need them to drop a game or two, and definitely need to win at least three of these to get in. I think if the Colts beat the Raiders, that's going to pretty much knock them out of contention of being in the playoffs. But my worry right now, and it's a possibility, the Patriots might sneak up in here and snag that last playoff spot, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about here shortly. But that's my worry with the Colts. Wouldn't that be something?
I mean, it's still mathematically possible, but that's just not going to happen. The Patriots are winning games against.
You better knock on some wood if you're going to say that's not going to happen.
No, I'm not worried about the Patriots on the playoffs. And the Colts, yesterday I thought, for whatever you want to say about the Colts in that first half, there were a lot of yards for both offenses. I thought the Colts defense played, exceptionally well. I think, Deshaun Watson and his ability to escape that pressure and just be able to feel it and get away from it pretty much every play. I mean, it was like every completion Deshaun had was him moving out of the pocket and away from the rush. I thought the rush was getting there pretty much every play within about 2 seconds. The secondary wasn't giving up huge plays. So I thought that the defense overall played really well. And I think the offense is really missing Anthony Costanzo. They haven't been terrible, but they're not putting together full 60 minutes right now. And Anthony Costanzo is a huge reason for that. I think LaRaven Clark, had he not gotten hurt, I think the Colts probably lose that game. I think Chaz Green coming in for LaRaven Clark so early in that game was actually a positive for the Colts. But Anthony Costanzo getting back in the lineup will be huge. Now, this game coming up against the Raiders is kind of like Zach said. If the Raiders lose, it's going to be really tough for the Raiders to get back into that playoff contention. But then if the Colts win that game, right, that pretty much, I mean, at that point, you look at who else is down there. I mean, the Ravens, it's going to be tough for the Ravens as it's looking right now. So if the Colts can find a way to beat the Raiders, I think their playoff chances are looking good. But if it goes the opposite way, then, I mean, the Colts are for sure going to have to win out the last three to even have a chance at making it in.
Yeah, and so when we compare these games, the Colts have the Raiders, the Texans again, which was I hear everything you said, Hefe, but if there's not a drop snap at the end of that game yesterday, we're probably having a different conversation today. That was intense. I really thought it was over. It's why you play the game, and everything happens for a reason. And probably the pass rush factors in that. You get a bad snap, he's already looking up to make sure there's not a blitz coming. Whatever the case may be, takes his eye off the ball for a second. If you watch the replay, you clearly see he looks down and he looks back up and it slips to his fingers. But all that's water under the bridge. They have the Raiders. They have the Texans again. They have the Steelers, and they have the Jags. Jags should be a foregone conclusion, right? So we have the other three games there. The Colts could win or lose any one of those three games. I think we can all agree on that. The Titans, on the other hand, have the Jaguars, the Lions, the Packers, and the Texans. They have a slightly better chance of winning. So let's just put it in the terms of all four games. The Titans have a slightly better chance of winning all four games than the Colts do. If they split, this is what Zach and I were talking about yesterday. If they split and they finished with the same record. The Colts and the Titans finished with the same record. They split in the regular season. So the tiebreaker then goes to win percentage on interdivision opponents. And game one, loss to the Jag, absolutely kills the Colts, which pisses me off. You've heard me say it before. There's no reason an interdivision game should be played in week one, ever. An interdivision game, in my opinion, shouldn't happen until midseason. At the earliest week 4. That's ridiculous. You have no idea, especially in this season when with everything that went on, nobody knew what was going on, and it was all experimentation. And they dropped game 1 to the Jags, a team that arguably could be worse than the Jets. They're going to get away with having one more win than they are. It's really sad and unfortunate that something that happened 3 months ago is going to come back and haunt you. But that's the reality of what we're looking at. So the Colts really got to tighten up. Wait a minute. Oh, no, I've gone cross-eyed. To the Patriots' point, the Patriots are capable of beating the Dolphins. Patriots are at home against the Bills. They're capable of beating the Bills, and the Patriots are going to beat the Jets. So the question then becomes, when the Patriots go to L.A., can they beat the Rams? I think that's a possibility. I don't think it's as high a possibility. Zach might have a point.
Yeah, they've won 4 out of 5. The only game they lost was 27-20 to Houston.
You're talking about Beelzebub, freaking Belichick. You can't count this guy out. We've seen it way too much for way too long.
So if Cam Newton goes against an elite defense and they get down in a game, you trust Cam Newton to come back and put 21 points on the board real quick?
No, I'm not a Cam Newton fan. I mean, I don't want to overstate this whole thing. I'm just saying
it's a very real possibility.
It's a possibility. As much as I don't want to admit it, it is a possibility.
That's all right. I think the Rams are going to do me a good service and end all those talks this upcoming.
I do too. I think the Rams will win, in all fairness. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. All right. So the 8th spot is the Raiders. We've talked a lot about them. The Raiders, I don't have any idea what in the hell happened yesterday with the Raiders. Does anybody want to speculate?
I'm going to have to defer this one to Hefe.
Yeah, I really don't know. I was peeking in and out of this game and had no idea what was going on because if you look at the numbers, it looks like the Raiders dominated. But if you really look closer at it, I mean, I think they're really missing Richie Incognito. You know, couple holding calls that stall drives. We know how that goes. And they were missing Jonathan Abrams. I've mentioned him before. If he's not in the lineup, there are going to be issues in the secondary, and he wasn't there yesterday. So going in, I knew that it was going to be a little more sketchy, but I didn't think it would be what it was. You know, it was really Greg Williams' zero blitz that got him fired, you know, that led up a touchdown. So, you know, the Jets probably should have came away with this one, but the Raiders, kind of like the Colts, the good teams in the past to talk about, you know, to have really good championship-like years, you got to be good, but you got to have a lot of luck too. And the Raiders and the Colts definitely got lucky this week. And I don't know what happened there, but they're lucky they came out with the win on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna top in here. I don't know a whole lot about Greg Williams. The guy probably deserved to be fired, but he probably deserved to be fired when the rest of the coaching staff got fired. This is some typical Adam Gase blame shifting bullshit's what this is. This is blaming everything on Ryan Tannehill and shifting his ass out. I'm telling you, man, I'm calling this as bullshit. This guy, whatever with this call, he pulls it off. He's a genius, and they win. They get their first win, and then everybody carries him off the field and dumps water all over him. They don't, and so Adam Gase is going to blame. Dude, you haven't won a freaking game all year, and you're going to fire your defensive coordinator like you're going to blame him? Bullshit. Somebody have some balls and step up and fire this jackass. End of rant.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add about that. I agree wholeheartedly, but if I was Greg Williams, I would be very thankful that you are now free.
Yeah. Excellent point. Excellent point. Go fishing with Bob. Get
It'd be
your
a little bit
resume
more
together.
enjoyable than being on a dumpster fire like the New York Jets.
That's exactly right. Get your resume together, go fishing, and pull it back together after the holidays. Looking ahead at the Raiders' schedule, the Raiders, they're kind of in the driver's seat as far as their destiny is concerned. I say that. I mean, there's a lot going on in the AFC, but they have the Colts, they have the Chargers, they have the Dolphins, and they have the Broncos. They're certainly capable of winning all four of these games. I don't think they will win all four of these games, but they're capable of winning all four of these games. On the flip side of that, they're also capable of losing all four of these games. And so the Raiders are at a very pivotal point as far as their season is concerned. They could go either way on this. So it'd be interesting to see that they look like they're not playing well. And I don't know what to expect, but we'll see, right? We're not going to talk about the Broncos. So let's you guys want to say anything else about the AFC before we go?
No, it's definitely going to be interesting. It's been fun all year, but I'm really excited to see how this plays out the next 4.
Yeah, me too. All right, number 1 spot, top of the NFC, clinch the playoffs, 10-2, Nolans Saints. I don't expect them to really be knocked off this perch. We've talked about this. Is there anything new you guys want to add?
No, not really. I think Taysom Hill has been really good for him. I think he gives them kind of more. Obviously, not better than Drew Brees, but because he can do more, I think the offense over the next couple of weeks is going to start looking like it works better, and then the defense is elite. So I don't see them getting knocked off the number 1 spot.
Yeah, and they've got the Eagles this week. They got the Saint or the Chiefs the week after, which will be a really good game, and maybe your Super Bowl preview if the Saints can hold it together and get Drew Brees back in. Then they've got the Vikings and the Panthers. They should finish 3-1, and they'll probably, in all reality, hold on to this number 1 spot as much as Zach and his buddy Aaron Rodgers would rather have it. I don't see the Saints relinquishing this, to be honest.
No, it doesn't appear so. I mean, I was hopeful for the Packers to get up in there, which, I mean, theoretically they still can. You never know, but the way the Saints are playing, especially not even having Drew Brees, they've still won the last 3 games without him. It appears like New Orleans is going to be the number 1 seed.
Agreed. All right, so the number 2 spot obviously falls to the Green Bay Packers. Had an easy win against the Eagles yesterday. They should probably hold on to this spot. They've got the Lions, the Panthers, the Titans, I think we're all hoping they beat the Titans, and the Bears. I expect them to go 3-1 as well. And the only way they're going to overtake the Saints is if the Saints drop one of those and the Packers win outright and win all 4 of these, which they're very capable of doing as well. So that's all I got to say about that.
So I think going down in the latter part of this season, I think Aaron Rodgers is really going to show why he's deserves to be MVP, why he probably will be MVP this year. I know Patrick Mahomes is making a case, but Aaron Rodgers, 12 games into this season, has 37 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and over 3,400 yards. Patrick Mahomes has 33 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, so there's a case there. But I really think the Packers are going to be able to finish 4-0 with that schedule. Maybe they sit in the last week if they're locked into the number 2 seed or whatever. But I think they could win all 4 games. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I don't see them falling by any means.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, obviously, because I'm a Packers fan as well as Colts fan. But Aaron Rodgers definitely playing very well. I think drafting Jordan Love definitely lit a fire under him, and he's ready to ball out. He's proven that this season. Looking at their schedule, they have Chicago week 17, Detroit week 14. They also have Tennessee week 16. So they should run the table. While you were talking, I was looking up to see if it was possible for Green Bay to slide into the number 1 seed. It would have came down to a conference record, and the only game I can see New Orleans possibly losing is against Kansas City, and obviously they're AFC. So they should finish with 1 loss in the conference, whereas Green Bay already has 2. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Green Bay is going to be your number 2 seed.
Yeah, agreed completely. Which is, in the future or in the past would have won them a first round bye. Obviously, with the playoff format change, that's not going to happen this year. At the number 2 spot, yeah, they're going to play the number 7 team, and we're looking at a team like the Vikings, maybe the 49ers, which may be tougher, but I think the Packers are going to be fine, is what I'm trying to get at. The interesting development for the number 3 spot is the LA Rams, and it appears there may be some separation in the NFC West happening. The Rams may be pulling away with this.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Cardinals are falling out of favor. They're out of the playoff picture right now. I mean, obviously in the bubble, but they're not one of the 7 seeds right now. And the Rams are just they're dominating. And the offense, as long as that offensive line can keep Jared Goff clean, they have a pretty good chance of winning because he as long as which is true with most quarterbacks, if you get time in the pocket, you're less likely to make mistakes. But the numbers from when he gets pressured and not turn the ball over to when he does are staggering. They pretty much lose all the time when he turns the ball over and win pretty much every game when he doesn't turn the ball over. So if they can keep him clean, which they've done a pretty good job of, there are obviously some teams that bring the heat and are really good at it. But they do a pretty good job in the run game. They have a committee where they use Cam Akers, who's picked it up over the last couple of weeks. Their rookie is starting to look really good for them, but they also use Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. And they use them, however McVay thinks they need to. The offense in some ways looks a lot like the Frank Reich Colts offense, from what I watch. That's what it reminds me of. And so, the Rams, elite defense, really, really good offense most weeks. They look like they should definitely finish as the winner of the NFC West. But, this division's been up in the air all year. We'll have to wait and see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to be up in the air, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. The Rams have won 3 of the last 4. Looking at it, they beat Seattle week 10, the big game against Tampa Bay week 11. They lost that game to San Francisco, which could end up being huge there. And then last week, obviously, they beat Arizona. But as we discussed earlier with the Patriots are capable of winning given the way that they've played. So they have the Patriots coming up in week 14. Then they have the Jets in 15, but they finished the end of the season in week 16 and 17, which are going to be hotly contested games. Nobody's sitting any starters for those. You're at Seattle and then Arizona week 17. So they have some hurdles to cross before they can crown themselves divisional champions.
Yeah, but I think as we look at those, the Seahawks have some issues, man. They've got some problems, and like Hefe said, the Cardinals seem to be struggling more now than they were earlier. I agree with you, especially because they're interdivision games, and it wouldn't surprise me if they lost either one or both of these games. But you like to think at the end of the season you're seeing the emergence of a dominant leader. We certainly could be wrong about that, but for right now, it looks to me like the Rams, they're in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny, and they can certainly shore up this number 3 spot and stay there if they wanted to.
Yeah, and just got to get the job done the rest of the season.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay, number 4 spot. Also, maybe seeing some separation here. For as much fun as we've made at the NFC East, and we still rightfully have their all rights to do so. They're only 5-7. The Giants appear to be getting their shit together.
Yeah, they do. Especially bringing in Colt McCoy. I thought the offense was going to be inept like it was in like weeks 1 to 4 for the Giants when they couldn't move the ball, they couldn't run the ball at all, couldn't do anything in the pass game. But Colt McCoy came in, didn't do anything outrageously flashy that made you turn your head, but he got the job done. And Wayne Gallman has been an outstanding fill-in guy for Saquon Barkley. Even though the team signed Devontae Freeman earlier in the year after Saquon got hurt, and they started Devontae Freeman, and once Devontae Freeman got hurt and Wayne Gallman got in the lineup, that's when the run game really started to work for the Giants. And ever since Joe Judge and I believe it was Mark Colombo, the offensive line coach that was there with the Giants whenever him and Joe Judge got into a fight. After that point, the offensive line has been outstanding. You know, the rookie Andrew Thomas for the Giants, their new left tackle, he got benched earlier in the season. Well, this past week was not only his highest PFF grade of the season, but the highest PFF grade for any rookie tackle this season. So the offensive line as a whole is coming around for the Giants, and it's helping the entire offense. Obviously, again, you protect quarterback, good things are going to happen. But as long as Colt McCoy can just keep things together, the hamstring injury with Daniel Jones wasn't as serious as originally thought. So he could be back this upcoming week. We'll have to keep an update on that. But it looks good for the Giants. They're, like you said, Brad, they're getting their shit together and getting it together at the perfect time of year.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Kind of. They've won the last 4. They have looked a lot better. I think they're capable of making improvements as they go along. They have Arizona, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Dallas. They might go 1-3 that stretch. They could go 0-4. They could come out 2-2. You never know. I called a couple weeks ago when we were discussing this division that the Washington football team had a real shot. And looking at their schedule, they have Pittsburgh tonight, which we would assume that's going to be a loss. But if it's an upset win, this really makes things interesting because then they'll be straight tied with the Giants for the divisional lead. They have San Francisco, Seattle, Carolina, and Philadelphia. So they're capable of pulling 2, maybe 3 of those games. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to end up winning this division. And obviously you still can't count out Dallas. I mean, I'd like to count out Dallas, but with the way this division's going and it being 2020, who knows what's going to happen. But my money is probably going to be on the Giants slightly, but watch out for Washington because they may slide in there.
Yeah, agreed. The one thing I do want to, as we slide into the next playoff spot, the 5th spot, which is the Seahawks, the one thing I do want to say is that regardless of how well the Giants are doing, the Seahawks should be embarrassed they got beat by the Giants. And that should tell us everything we need to know. And I know crazier things happen. I don't want to completely beat down on them. But, dude, if you can't beat a team that's 5-7, then you probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Just my opinion. Anyway, they're at the 5th spot at 8-4, tied for first, but I think technically the Rams have the tiebreaker. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out with the Seahawks and the NFC West and the rest of the NFC with these playoff spots. There's a lot of parity. Everybody appears they're going to hover right around 500. And the Seahawks, they have the Jets, so that's a gimme. But they have Washington, they have the Rams, and they have the 49ers. And those last 2 games really could be the nails in the coffin for the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's the way I'm feeling too. And it's not looking good. If they go up against an elite defense, they're going to have some real issues, especially teams with good pass rushers. I mean, the offensive line in Seattle is terrible right now, and which is unfortunate. They have a guy named Mikey Upati. He's been around the league for a while. He's gotten a little older, kind of like Jason Peters. Guys that are really, really good, but they're just falling off. And unfortunately, that line's not holding up because you have Chris Carson. He came back. I thought he'd make a bigger impact than he has, but it's just not working out. Russ is to blame too. I want to sit here and put a lot of it on the offensive line, and it is a lot on the offensive line. But Russ has to, kind of like we used to always talk about with Andrew Luck, right? He has to make the decisions quicker. You don't always want him running around and having to improvise, because as much as you can make plays that way, mistakes are made that way too. And he's had the most turnovers in the league over the last, I think it's 5 weeks. And so they got to get it cleaned up. That as soon as the defense started playing better, we started seeing more inconsistencies out of the offense. So it'd be nice to see both of those units play well together and regain their position as a top team. But it's not looking good over the last couple of weeks for the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, I have to agree with you guys. Russ was hot coming out the gate. That offense was firing on all cylinders. They won 5 in a row. Since then, they've lost 4 out of their last 7, including their 17-12 loss to the New York Giants. The New York Jets game coming up should be a gimme, but then they do play a good Washington defense in Washington in Week 15, a good Los Angeles defense, and then a good San Francisco defense. So the Seattle defense is absolutely horrendous. So if those teams can have mediocre offensive games and their defense plays well and stops the Seattle offense, they may end up losing their last 3 games of the season, and that could push them out of playoffs. I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll win at least one of those games, plus the Jets game, 2, maybe 3 of these next 4. They should be safe to get in the playoffs. But I haven't been high on Seattle all season long. You can't, as my dad's best high school friend say, defense wins championships. But yeah, so I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs. I think they'll still get in, but it's just not looking good for the Seahawks right now.
Yeah, I agree. Fortunately for them, if they maintain, well, maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately, if they maintain the 5th spot right now, they'll play the NFC East team. But yesterday, the team that's currently at the top of the NFC East kicked their ass. So I don't. They are probably going to squeeze in here, but I don't think they're going to be much of a factor. I think they'll probably be done wild card weekend. They can probably make their fishing reservations now. Number 6 spot, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's my question for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, they can't take the North. They can't take it away from the Saints. All right, so they have the Vikings in Tampa, which doesn't matter. Tampa's shown that they can win anywhere, and they will lose at home like it's nobody's business. So home field advantage doesn't mean anything to Tampa. They have the Vikings in Tampa. They are on the road in Atlanta. They are on the road in Detroit. They are at home against the Falcons. So they have the Vikings, the Falcons, the Lions, and the Falcons. Their current record is 7-5. Where do they finish?
I don't know. I want to sit here and say, oh, that's an easy 11-5, but the way Minnesota's been playing, they could lose that game. Then you have 2 games with Atlanta. It's a divisional game. You never know. Detroit should be an easy win. So they could lose 2.
They've also have a resurgence and looked better yesterday than they have.
A blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while. You know what I mean?
But we've talked about coachless teams are dangerous. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Hefe? They're 7-5 now. They have 4 games left.
I think they finish the season 9-7. I think they drop at least one of those games to the Falcons. You know, that second division game, once you have to play a team a second time, some weird stuff can happen. So I think they drop one to the Falcons, and I think, you know, the Vikings game might be a little bit of a long shot, but the way Dalvin Cook's running and the way Justin Jefferson, I mean, he's come on and he's going to be a star in this league. Adam Thielen is Adam Thielen. You know, the Vikings offense is looking good too. And so I don't know. That Viking game is going to be the one, I think, that really makes it or breaks it for whether or not they can get to 10-6 or not. But I think 9-7.
I think 2-2 is fair. I think, and Zach, I think you kind of alluded to that as well without really saying it that clearly. I'm not real confident that they can win all 4 of these games. The good thing for the Buccaneers and the Seahawks and the Vikings and the Cardinals and the 49ers is they all play each other over the next 4 weeks. So it should balance out. The Seahawks and the Buccaneers should be able to maintain where they are at unless somebody gets really hot and busts this whole thing up. Because for the listeners, I mean, everybody here knows this. The number 7 spot is currently held by the Vikings at 6-6. The number 8 spot is the Arizona Cardinals at 6-6, and the number 9 spot is the 49ers at 5-6, who may be the hottest of these 4 or 5 teams that we're talking about. So this is going to be kind of an ever-changing thing. I really think the last spot is only the spot that's in contention. I think the Seahawks and the Buccaneers should be able to, unless they drop all 4 games, which is possible, they should be able to maintain. And that 7th spot is what these last 3 teams are fighting for. With that said, the Bears are, I was going to say an honorable mention. That is not the right words I want to use. They are the 10th spot at 5-7 after starting 5-0. So I just want to make sure we put the Bears in their proper place today.
See, that it makes me feel better at how at the beginning of the year I picked the Bears to lose every single game, and they proved me wrong. I knew they were bad. They were just getting lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that. They were the worst undefeated team in the league, and they've certainly proved that. I hate that.
All the Bears fans out there, oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, they can say that if they want. I was going to say I feel sorry for Bears fans because after a 5-0 start, you would expect them to be better at 5-7, and that's kind of some Detroit Lions stuff right there. But it is what it is, and they got a real problem. We called this before the season, talked about an unnecessary quarterback controversy that would ultimately sink their ship, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yep,
they are now in a mess they can't get out of. The only way that's going to happen is one of those guys is shipped out in the offseason.
Yeah, I don't know what move you're going to make.
I don't know either. But that's the only way this fixes itself. You can't come back with both of them on the roster next year. It's too entangled. It's a mess. You have to pick one or run them both out and bring somebody else in and start all over, which is a completely different conversation itself. But we called this in the preseason all the way up to like week 1 or 2 or 3 that the Bears were really getting themselves in a mess with this quarterback stuff, and boy, they sure have.
Yes, they have.
Yes, they have.
I do want to say I want to throw in here that I think Minnesota has a real legitimate shot at keeping their playoff spot here. They have Tampa Bay, which we just discussed. They're capable of winning this game in Tampa Bay, which I want to roll back real quick back to the Buccaneers. Get rid of Antonio Brown, and you'll win all 4 games to close out the season.
Man, I don't have an argument for that. I know Hefe doesn't either.
I mean, my only argument would be that Antonio Brown's done more in his career than any other receiver on that team. But
what have you done for me lately?
Everywhere he goes, man, even if he's not starting problems, there's just something about him being on the roster. It could be a fluke coincidence. Who knows? But, yeah, that's all I got to say. Get rid of Antonio Brown there. You may win the next 4 games. But to jump back to the Vikings, they have this game at Tampa Bay week 14. They're capable of winning that. I think the Bucs will probably get it done, but we don't know. Week 15, the Vikings are playing Chicago. They should win that game given how Minnesota's been playing. Week 16 is at New Orleans. That'll probably be a loss there, but who knows? You could slide in for an upset. And then you have Detroit week 17. So you could go 3-1, 2-2 here, but I think Minnesota has a very legitimate shot at wrapping this one up and making the playoffs.
So I think they have a good shot too, but I think the real threat is going to come from the 49ers. Now, obviously, they have to beat the Bills, but the 49ers, again, getting healthy is going to be huge for them. This is a team, obviously, all year they had, $83 million worth of cap space on IR at one time earlier this season. I mean, just ridiculously unlucky, but they're still in the playoff hunt in some capacity. And I think, Deebo Samuel and Raheem Mostert, Richard Sherman come back last week. Huge. This week they get Brandon Ayuk back, another player to put into that offense. And the other running backs should be coming back to get behind Mostert in case he gets hurt again. I mean, they're about to have – Kyle Shanahan's about to have all his toys. Robert Saleh's about to have everybody he wants back on defense except for obviously Nick Bosa out for the year. But it's all coming back together for the Niners, and I think they're a threat for everybody in the NFC. Starting with the Bills tonight, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just real quick, you do have a very solid point. I'm sitting here looking at the rest of their schedule. This Bills game is huge. They pull this one off, I might be right there with you. I might have to retract everything I just said about the Vikings because they have the Bills tonight, Then they have Washington, Dallas. They should win both of those games. Arizona hasn't been playing well. They could win that game. And Seattle hasn't been playing well. You're correct. They may win the next 5 games.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to point out. And even if they don't beat the Bills and they still run to 4-1, they finish 9-7. So which means the Vikings would have to go 3-1 to finish 9-7. The 49ers got a real shot at taking this last spot. It'd be interesting to see what the Vikings do. The Vikings exhaust me. I was trying. I tried so hard at the beginning of the year. I just don't know the Vikings can go 3-1. I mean, I think they can. I just don't know that they will.
They got to beat Tampa or New Orleans.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting. This isn't like the AFC. I mean, the AFC is like the Indy 500 leaderboard when somebody pit stops and everything changes all the way down. I mean, these last 4 weeks is going to be really crazy. But this last spot is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Anything you guys want to add about the NFC or anything else before we go?
No, it's going to be exciting, just like the AFC or the AFC playoff race. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is why we watch right here. We're going to change up the end of today's broadcast. It is with great sorrow and regret that we share the unexpected news that our friend Joey Deuce-Hagan unexpectedly passed away this morning at the young age of 50. Joey had previously been a guest of this show. He was an avid Colts fan, and he was also a Buccaneers fan. Joey and I met in 1984, and we went to high school together. We worked our first job together at Taco Bell. He moved in with me for our senior year of high school, and we both graduated and both joined the Navy. We later reconnected a few years later, and we had stayed in touch since. Joey was a beloved radio personality for X103 Alternative Radio in Indianapolis, and most recently with Tampa Rock 98. Our hearts go out to his loved ones in this time of tragedy. We can only say that he will be severely missed. Rest in peace, friend.
Oh, hold on. Jay Gruden did not win a Super Bowl either. He just happened to get Tony Dungy's team.
You're not gonna like what I have to say about Dungy later.
We've seen who goes to football games. I'm not sitting in a hot tub with you guys. I enjoyed watching Henry run over people. I mean, it was fun to watch. How awesome is that? Gentlemen, thank you.
Everybody, please welcome the Deuce.